Hello. So today we're going to be taking our notes from Matthew's 1. So I like going from Old Testament to New Testament, back and forth like that. So Matthew's 1, 1 through 16, it was talking about the generation of Abraham all the way to Yeshua. So verse 17, I kind of like found that interested because it talk about how it was 14 generations from Abraham to David, another 14 from David to carrying away to Babylon, and another 14 from the Babylon all the way to when Yeshua was born. So verse 18 I also found interested because this is when basically we read it. Now the birth of Yeshua was thus when his mother Mary had been engaged to Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be with child by the Holy Spirit. I underlined before they came together, she was found with child with the Holy Spirit. So I didn't get anything from it, but I kind of underlined that because it was important, because it was before anything happened. She basically was with child with the Holy Spirit, and I underlined Holy Spirit as well. What I got was interested. It's a whole lot to it, so I'm not even going to talk about what I got for Holy Spirit. I'm going to do that like in a separate section. But like I said, I underlined before they came together, and then I underlined Holy Spirit. But verse 18, Holy Spirit, I'll be doing that in another session because there's a whole lot to it. So verse 20 I found interesting. So basically it says, he was thinking this way, but behold, a messenger of Yah appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary your wife, for what has been formed within her is from the Holy Spirit. So I underlined a messenger, a dream, and is formed from the Holy Spirit. So I kind of find it interesting that he was dreaming, so basically he was asleep technically when the messenger came to him. And like I said, Holy Spirit is going to be talked about later. Verse 21 I got, and she is giving birth to a son, and shall call him Yeshua, for he shall save his people from their sin. So I underline, for he shall save his people from his sin, because the name Yeshua, the name that was given to him, meant shall save people from his sin. So like I said, the name has meaning. So usually when they say name, they would sometimes have the meaning of that name next, in that same verse. And your name holds purpose, and Yeshua's name was save his people from their sins. So I found that interesting. So I'm also going to be talking about Matthew chapter 2, since number 1 was short. But in verse 1, so I'm not going to really read the verse, so you guys can pause and read for yourself, but I'm going to basically just say what I underlined and everything in the notes that I got from it. So in verse 1, I underlined wise men and from the east. And wise men, I didn't put the strong, but you guys can look up the strong. I forgot to put the strong on there. But what I got was great or large, and a member of wisdom class. So sometimes they will be referenced as magician, so or magi. And it wasn't referring to like magic or anything, but it was like basically a position of status. So like you were a member of like you were smart, so you were considered like one of the wise people, like because you had like a lot of wisdom and knowledge to share. East like I said, I underlined east. The strong word is 395, and that meant a rising. A rising, so basically the morning sunrise. So that's what it meant, and I was kind of surprised. It didn't mean like east. It wasn't used as a direction, but it was basically rather used in time. So the wise men came to Jerusalem in the east. So they came to Jerusalem when the morning sunrise came. So they were already in Jerusalem when the morning sunrise came. And then also it's like, okay, so they came from the east and then they go to the east. So if they're coming from the east and then Jerusalem is in the east, that made no sense. Because you can't come from the east to go to the east. You have to go a different direction. It just made no sense. It made no sense. So if they, yeah. So, basically the east kind of reminds me of Genesis when Yah had made the lights in day 4, and it says and Yah said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the days from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. So like I said, east wasn't for direction, but it was telling the time, which meant morning sunrise. The morning sunrise. Verse 2, I underline king, star in the east, and worship. So king, strong G 935, and I asked my question this, what is a king? So that meant through the notion of a foundation of power, leader of the people, prince, commander, lord of the land. I got prince, commander, lord of the land. So I kind of basically underlined prince in that definition, and I was like, okay, but it's a prince, and I got the son of a monarch. Son. Star G792 is literally meant star. Worship G4352, and that I got the definition for that. I got meet, greet, get to know, and ultimately fully emerge with, to kiss the hand to one in token of reverence. That's what I got for worship. His star in the east. So they literally saw his star, basically a star in the east. So in the morning sunrise, they literally saw a star before the sun fully had risen. So east equals sunrise. So they saw the sun in the sunrise. They saw the star in the sunrise, the sun, the star in the morning, or the morning star. So I found that in verse 2. I kind of found that interesting. Verse 3, I basically asked myself the question, why was Jerusalem troubled? Because it talked about Herod and Jerusalem, and all of Jerusalem with him, they were troubled. So I asked my question, why is Jerusalem troubled? So verse 4 is when the anointed was born. Verse 6, I basically underline, art not the least among the prince of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people. So I found that interesting, how it talked about how Bethlehem was not the least among the prince of Judah. So they were not one of the least. So for out of thee shall come a governor. So I looked up governor. It means to lead, to go before, and to be a leader. I looked up rule, and the rule, the strong G4165, the rule they used was, the definition I got was to tend as a shepherd of feed, so cattle or whatever. So that's the rule they use, which is why I kind of basically did a summary of verse 6, and it says, "Of you, for he will come out leading, who will shepherd the people of Israel." So that's what I got for 6. Verse 7, I underlined, Herod privately called the wise men, inquired what time the star appeared. So I found verse 7 interesting because he kind of like, Herod was basically, he privately called the wise men. Like I said, it can mean a multitude of people. But he wanted to accurately make sure exactly what time the star appeared. And it appeared in the east, in the morning sunrise. Verse 9, I underlined, the star in the east went before them till it came, stood over young child was. So the star they saw, I kind of found it verse 9 interesting because the star they saw in the sunrise, in the morning sunrise, basically went before them. So it was basically leading them to where basically Yeshua was born, the anointed one was born. So it went before them and it led them until it came to a stop, and it was like, okay, this is where he's at. Verse 10, I found it interesting. I underlined, saw the star and rejoiced, but the whole thing I basically kind of found interesting because as soon, basically, it was basically talking about the anointed one when they saw the star. So him literally a star. So they now, verse 10, already at the place, and they called him the star and they rejoiced. Verse 11, I kind of found that interesting because they called him a king and they are basically treating him like a king. So I'm like, okay, what do you do when you visit a king? When you visit a king, you don't really come empty-handed. You know, you show your respect and you have present, you have gifts, and then you give it to the king. So they came and showed their respect. They went to worship him and they gave, their present, they gave their gift to him. Verse 15, 17, 18, 23, these were like the prophecies that were given. And also like warnings, so like dreams. So like when an angel came and appeared, so like an angel is always appearing in a dream to Joseph. So like I'm like, okay, Joseph is the head of the family, so he would warn Joseph in a dream. Like a messenger will always come and warn Joseph in a dream, or not even Joseph, but the wise men. They would get warnings in a dream. So warnings to take action, basically. So that's basically what I found in Matthew's 2.